Hey, what's going on guys? It's Brainbean here again, and today we're going to be taking a look at Corsair's all-new flagship gaming keyboard, the K100. So with that, let's check this thing out. Starting as always with construction and design, the K100 at first glance doesn't look too different than the K95 Platinum, but the further you dig in, it becomes pretty obvious that this keyboard has been revamped and improved in just about every aspect of its design. For starters, the board is about the same size as the K95 Platinum XT and still sports that classy brushed aluminum top plate, which I've always liked. The board sports a more modern look this time around, which I also think was a pretty good choice. On the sides of the keyboard, we've got some nice molded accents that add a little bit of structural support as well as just a little bit of a stylistic pop. You'll also notice the light bar, which we'll talk a little bit more on those later. The K100 comes with a detachable magnetic wrist rest, which is padded and wrapped in a textured leatherette. Now, this wrist rest is by far the nicest one that Corsair has ever put out, and maybe any other gaming company for that matter. The wrist rest feels premium and nice to use. My only concern here is with the texture, it does tend to pick up extra dust and debris pretty easily, so you may find yourself needing to clean it more than you typically would. In terms of branding, we do have an RGB sales logo in the top center of the board and a mystery IQ logo over in the top left, but I'm not going to spill the beans on that part just yet. I do like these hidden LED indicators that you'll see next to the sales logo in the top center of the board. They're super clean and clear when lit and totally invisible when not in use. The underside has large rubberized pads, single-step extendable legs, and a 6-way cable channel. In terms of lighting, the K100 packs in the most RGB ever for a Corsair keyboard, having full per-key RGB on everything, even the dedicated media, macro keys, and all other buttons. There's also 44 zones of edge lighting on the K100 to broadcast some ambient light on your desk. I think the edge lighting does a really good job at providing a cool ambient effect without being super distracting and in your face like the K95 Platinum's was. And this time around, all RGB enabled lights will participate in animated effects, so you won't have any weird static lights like the profile or Windows lock buttons, for example, which previously were locked to a static color. And like all Corsair RGB products, it does use IQ to control the lights. I feel like by now you guys know what that is, so I'm gonna spare you the redundancy of going over that again. And one of the less obvious new features of the K100 is their Axon Hyper processor. This is essentially the brains of the keyboard. The Axon processor allows for 4 times the throughput of traditional gaming keyboards, providing up to 4,000 Hz polling rate for lightning-fast connectivity over USB 2. The Axon chip also allows for saving up to 200 onboard profiles depending on how intricate they are. It's hard for me to say exactly how much difference this makes over a standard gaming keyboard at 1,000 Hz polling rate, and I feel like at this point we're kind of splitting hairs because this is going to be faster than a human can perceive the response time anyways. I do like to see though that Corsair is pushing the hardware that we have in today's gaming peripherals, and also the addition of up to 200 profiles is really nice to see too. The K100 is available in 2 switch types right now, a Cherry MX Speed variation and also Corsair's new proprietary linear optical OPX switch, but I do feel like this is a little bit redundant as I would have liked to have seen them offer something like Cherry MX Browns and the linear gaming switch, for example, like we saw with the K95 Platinum, but in this case we're just getting 2 very fast linear switch options. The OPX Switch is Corsair's first entry into a proprietary gaming switch. It's a linear switch with an ultra-fast actuation of 1mm and a total travel of 3.2mm. It's a light switch requiring 45-gram actuation force, and it's guaranteed to last 150 million keystrokes. And I feel like by now at this point you guys are pretty familiar with what the advantages of optical switches are over traditional mechanical ones, so I'm going to focus on my actual user experience with the OPX Switch. The switches feel nice and smooth to type and game on. To me, they're noticeably less scratchy than Cherry linear switches can be. The super short actuation distance means that these switches only need to be pressed 1mm to register them, making them fast and responsive, but also very easy to accidentally hit a key, particularly with how light the switches are at 45 grams. This makes them feel quick and nimble for gaming, but you will definitely have to learn to clean up your typing, as you probably will have some typos for a while when you're getting used to them. Now normally this is where I would tantalize your ears with a sound test, but there are a couple of other things I want to touch on before we get to that. Now Corsair has been doing a really good job at listening to the community. As a result, this board features PBT double-shot keycaps, but they've done away with their controversial large font and replaced it with a nice, clean, simple font. Another welcome change for me is that the spacebars no longer have that irritating diamond plate texture to them. And also included in the box are 2 sets of textured keycaps. They've also given this board a standard bottom row, making it compatible with a lot more keycap sets, and they've completely revamped their stabilizers on this board, which was a huge complaint on the previous boards, particularly with that rattly spacebar. These new stabilizers are worlds better than the old ones, and they feel almost as good as real modded stabilizers. Opening them up, I didn't see any lube on them, but they definitely have added some kind of dampening system underneath them, and I think properly lubed with some dielectric grease, these will perform like champs. And just so you guys can hear what I'm talking about, here is a quick sound test. Corsair brought back a lot of their flagship extras with the K100, like the row of 6 dedicated macro keys, which also have Stream Deck integration with iQ. The dedicated media keys are back, this time slightly redesigned with a more raised profile. And the textured aluminum volume roller feels super premium on this version. There's also a USB pass-through at the back of the board, and this is also designed to work with iQ Nexus as well. Now, probably the coolest new addition to this keyboard is the iQ control wheel. This versatile wheel comes bound to 4 functions by default. Out of the box, you can use it to control the brightness of the keyboard, rewind or fast forward media, use it for selecting tracks, or onboard macro recording. Once you combine this with iQ though, you can use it for things like app switching, zooming, vertical or horizontal scrolling, or create just about anything you could imagine in game or for productivity applications. And for me, the use cases for this thing are pretty huge. I mean, as somebody who does a lot of creative work, the more dials and tangible knobs that I have to move for things like zooming or color correcting or all kinds of different things you can use it for is awesome. So for me, this addition is pretty cool. The action on the dial is smooth with a light tactile feeling that also gives you a little bit of an audible sound, and overall feels pretty nice to use. Clicking the center button will change between functions on the dial, and it will change colors to reflect which mode it's in. I think this is a pretty cool addition to add to the keyboard. I don't think it makes it look too overly busy, and it doesn't really come off as being too gimmicky because the practical applications are there. I think your mileage may vary depending on how much time you spend on, really setting it up to work with specific games that you play or creative apps, but for those of you that do take the time to use it, I think you will get your money's out of having that on there. The K100 comes in at $230, which certainly is asking a premium price, but it's also right in line with where we're seeing other gaming companies' flagships land, somewhere in the mid-200s market right now. So, is it an expensive keyboard? Yes. Do I think Corsair does enough to justify the price? Yeah, I think they do. I mean, consider all the improvements. The new font, better stabilizers, optical switches, nicer wrist rest, control wheel, sleek design, lighting fast Axon processor, the list goes on. And overall, I'm just struggling to find anything glaringly wrong with this keyboard. I mean, other than the lack of switch variety and only offering the 2 fast linear switches, that's about all I got. I do think it would be cool to see Corsair take everything that they've learned in building this keyboard and apply it to smaller form factors as well. And who knows, I mean, it's too soon to tell, we might get to see that in the future. It may have taken Corsair a while to respond to the kind of stuff that Razer's been doing, but they listened to the community and made appropriate changes, and the result is a great board. Simply put, this is what a flagship gaming keyboard looks like. Well, that's it for the review, guys. Let me know in those comments down below what you think about the K100. And of course, you can give this video a like and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, because I've got a lot more videos like this coming for you in the near future. You can follow me on Twitter at BrainBeanGaming. And as always, guys, stay safe out there, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next one.